Cycling for me has never been about the bikes. They've only ever been the prerequisite tool. I do not see just a bike race, I see riders on heroic journeys and warriors doing battle. At one point, cycling was the most popular sport in Europe because newspapers told magnificent tales about epic races and crafted the great champions into legends. But with the advent of television, cycling lost some of its mystique, and that golden age of journalism and narration has perished. So now let us try to return some romance to the beautiful sport. Let us praise and give glory to phenomenal performances to be remembered for decades to come. Let us dwell on the moments that inspire and move us. Let us chronicle the rise and fall of heroes. Let us chart these life-changing journeys, these cycling odysseys. All right, welcome back to another episode of Cycling Odysseys. I'm your host, Patrick Santino. We continue our tour rewind as we go back and reminisce. Too early, but is it really too early? On the 2020 Tour de France. We're on to stage 10. This is the first one after the rest day. We're now on the, western coast of France. And we go to Ile de Ré, which is that island. Yeah, this stage was billed as the first stage to start from an island and finish on an island. And a lot of people were, crapping on that. Like, that's a dumb, random ESPN stat and stuff. And I think I was in that group too. But the more I think about it, it's like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Because it's not like these islands are just, stupid islands. It's like, these are proper islands. I mean, they're pretty close and you can just make a mainstream bridge to them, but I mean, those are proper islands. That's actually kind of a cool historic, not really feat, but it's just a cool historical useless trivia question. So yeah, pretty cool. Now, the stage, we were hoping for crosswinds because they're so close to the sea. Didn't get it, but then again, well, okay, it's not like you can ever have your crosswind fix, though. There is a point where I think GC riders can only stand so much crosswinds. So maybe it was good that we already had our big dare crosswinds for the tour because this day was actually still nervous anyways. And then, at the end of it, pretty routine sprint. But as you'll see, it's what happens after the stage that really catches the eye. And if you're wondering, you can disagree. That's the fun part. I think this was one of my best stage recaps for this tour. Would love to know what you think. cyclingodysseys@gmail.com. And yeah, so with that, let's jump into it. You dream of it. Tour de France 2020, stage 10. Ile d'Oléron to Ile de Ré, 168 kilometers. Sam Bennett wins sprint after a nervous day on the Tour de France. Dear readers, today we traded out helicopter shots of beautiful chateaus for picturesque and epically situated lighthouses. The Tour de France has come to the coast on the rest day, on the harsh Bay of Biscay on the west coast of France near La Rochelle. The hope for the viewers was that the winds would blow and we would feast for hours on another day of crosswinds. This was not the hope of many riders in the peloton. Whether the crosswinds would materialize or not, this would be a nervous day in the bunch. Perhaps it is bad etiquette to give a preamble about things I will not focus on, dear readers, but quite frankly, this is my report, and I am free to write about what I wish, and you are free to read it or not. I had thought to tell the tale of the stage from Richie Port's of Trek Segafredo point of view, for crosswinds and cobbles and descents are the bane of his racing existence. Or perhaps focus on Guillaume Martin of Cofidis, who had a mechanical or crash at an inopportune time when the potential for crosswind splits was highest. Oh, how frightening that must have been as he lies third overall on GC. Though I have not experienced it myself, the point would have been to give a sense of stress and nerves for a general classification GC rider on the day where if they were out of position, they could lose their high placing within minutes despite being on great form. The crosswinds today did not materialize, but that would not have deterred me from trying to get into the head of a nervous GC rider. What did deter me was the winner's interview. Now, dear readers, surely the theme of the story I am about to tell could generically be applied to literally every stage winner of the Tour de France. But sometimes we, all of us, viewers, commentators, journalists, team staff, race organizers, and riders themselves, go through the motions of a typical Tour de France stage, especially on a transitional one like this was. And we forget to acknowledge that many of these days are a seminal event in someone's life. But every once in a while, we are pinched by a moment of real humanity that moves us all so deeply we realize that the culmination of someone's career has just transpired. Dear readers, today it happened in an unlikely place, on the immediate post-race winner's TV interview. Quite frankly, such things are usually dull affairs, like, for example, when it is one or two certain Slovenians who put a brick wall between their thoughts and emotions, and all the viewers get to see is a blank poker face giving short, generic answers to basic questions with no elaboration of any sort. Sorry to pick on Pog and Rog, they are not the only guilty ones. Most of the interviews go this way, but not today's. Today's interview stopped us all in our tracks as we were about to go back to normal life. It reminded us that even though 99 out of 100 of these interviews will be bland and useless, just 1 out of 100 can make it all worthwhile. But I'm going out of order, dear readers. Allow me to rewind just a few minutes. It was a fast day for the entire stage, because the crosswinds were a constant threat. Despite it all, basically everything stayed together for a final sprint. Sunweb had a superb lead-out train again for their man Case Bull. They controlled the last whole 4 kilometers with 6 or 7 of their teammates. But deep into the last kilometer, Bull's last lead-out man peeled off the front, and up came Deceuninck Quick-Step's final lead-out man, Michael Morkov. It was a straight shot. The pace was already high, and no one would be coming past him. Behind Morkov was his sprinter, Sam Bennett of Deceuninck Quick-Step, the champion of Ireland. How magnificent the shamrock jersey looked. But behind Bennett, cool and comfortable, in perfect place on his wheel, was the pocket rocket, the champion of Stage 3, Caleb Ewan of Lotto Soudal. How he weaved with such speed in Stage 3 to come back from so far down, why, it was like the Millennium Falcon in an asteroid field. If he could overtake Bennett and so many others on that stage, surely Bennett was in trouble today as he sat on his wheel. And yet, Bennett did what he must. Surely he could not win if he did not try. Morkov peeled off. Bennett launched his final kick. It was a straight shot. Ewan was in his slipstream, and Peter Sagan of Bora Hansgrohe was in Ewan's. It was a clean sprint, a fair gallop, pure sprinting, the beauty of all athleticism in a microcosm. Bennett was accelerating. Ewan, coming out of the slipstream to the left, was also accelerating and faster, while Sagan was coming on his right. But neither had room enough or acceleration to come around. Bennett beat Ewan by a quarter of a wheel, and Sagan by a full length. Bennett sat up and gave a little fist pump in the air. Ewan gave him a quick handshake, because he knew Bennett had it. Dear readers, it almost seemed like a routine affair. Very little glamour was involved. It was just fundamental sprinting. And it was just another transition stage smack dab in the middle of the circus that is the Tour de France. Watch the replays a couple times, check the results and fantasy scores, and then that's a wrap. What's the profile for tomorrow? Something a little more interesting than today, please. Oh, well, what's for dinner tonight? Pasta sounds good. We were all about to flick off the pictures and move on, but something weird caught our eye, dear readers. As I said, Bennett gave a minor fist pump at the finish. Ewan offered a handshake or fist bump as they freewheeled past the photographers in an act of good sportsmanship. But beyond that, Bennett was not celebrating too much. Sam, are you not aware that you just became the 100th rider to win a stage of all 3 Grand Tours? Oh, Sam, are you not aware that you have just won a stage of the Tour de France for the first time ever? Dear readers, I concluded he wasn't. There must have been a couple things going on in his head. He is a sprinter by trade. His life revolves around being in position for crazy fast finishes. There's hours lead up to them. But on a superb team like Quick-Step, his teammates will guide and protect him until the finale. It is in those final kilometers where he really switches on, when he gets in the zone. Flow, they call it. In flow, he is completely focused on the task at hand. He is only trying to win a sprint as he has won so many before. He no longer remembers the nervous hours he has already ridden in the winds. He no longer remembers it is stage 10 of the 2020 Tour. He no longer remembers it is even the Tour de France, the biggest bike race in the world. It is simply a bike race and he wants to win it. He is completely dialed in, sensing and accounting for everything. He's acutely aware of his rivals. He knows who is on his wheel. He knows when his lead-out man will peel off the front, and he is prepared to spend every ounce of energy he has in the final kick to win, where he must hold off the rivals behind, benefiting in his slipstream. He crossed the line and he knew he had won, hence the fist pump and the accepting of Ewan's congratulations. But then, dear readers, life started to come flooding back to him. He remembered that this wasn't just any bike race. This was the Tour de France. Had he really just won a stage? He doubted. Denial. He doubted because he admitted in the interview that he was scared that Ewan beat him in the bike throw, that he did not lunge his front wheel out far enough at the line, and Ewan snuck in past his. Had he blown it again? Lost to Ewan again, like he definitively did on stage 3? But then the confirmation came. A masked race official came over to him and confirmed the win. Then he started celebrating. High fives and hugs with his teammates, cheers and shouts of joy. And it was time for the winner's interview, as he had done many times before at other races, big and small. He came to the interview saying he was in shock, because he thought Ewan won with the bike throw, with the little lunge at the end. The interviewer had to assure him, "You've won. I'm telling you, you've won." And then we saw it, dear readers. We were glued to the screen. Dinner can wait. Despite the mask covering most of his face, we saw it in his watery eyes. Now the emotions were overwhelming him. Now he wasn't just acknowledging he had won another stage. He realized he had won a stage of the Tour de France. "You've been waiting for this for such a long time," the interviewer prompted. Looking into the eyes, we saw the achievement of a lifetime, a childhood dream fulfilled. He was tearing up. He was thanking everyone involved. He was thanking his whole team. His team boss, Patrick Lefebvre, for the opportunity, everyone it took to get here, his wife, and everyone around him. His sentences were broken. He couldn't control his emotions. Only an Irishman's face could go so red. "You dream of it, and you never think it will happen. And it does, and it did. I don't know. It took me a while for it to hit me," Bennett said. Yes, you dream of it. Young Sam Bennett was from the same town as Sean Kelly, King Kelly, the greatest cyclist Ireland's ever known. Surely Sam Bennett had a poster of him over his bed. Surely Sam Bennett watched the replays on TV of his greatest wins. He was not even 2 years old when Kelly descended the Poggio to win the 1992 Milan-San Remo on St. Patrick's Day with the clover in his back pocket, his last big win. But surely he had seen the finish 100 times before he was a teenager. And surely he had seen the footage of Stephen Roche winning the 1987 Tour as well. Yes, those two inspired a generation to dream. Yes, he said it himself. You dream of it. Surely the young Sam Bennett wished upon a star that someday he would win a stage of the Tour de France. And he took the steps for it to become a reality. The legendary Kelly, from the same town, became his mentor. Took him under his wing, guided him, set him up for success at the highest level of the sport, from amateur to world tour and Irish champion. And yet, you never think it will happen. As he DNF'd in his first Tour de France, as he hobbled through his second injured and bruised to finish the Latin Rouge, the Red Lantern, the Caboose, last place at the Tour de France. As he won multiple Giro stages in 2018, but was not even sent back in 2019 by poor Hans Grohe, even though he had won a stage in every race he had partaken that year, relegated to the mountainous Vuelta a España as his only Grand Tour of the year. As he did everything right and had all the speed on stage 3 in this race, but someone was still faster. How many times does he have to keep trying? How many more setbacks will he have to face? But finally, after thinking it's never going to happen, it does. And it did. I don't know. It took me a while for it to hit me. Sam, today your dreams are reality, but you do not need us to tell you that. Instead, it deeply moves us to witness you realize it for yourself. We are reminded of our own childhood, sitting on the floor in front of the TV, watching the big games and big races. Our heroes hit the home run, hit the buzzer beater, crossed the line first, and we dreamt someday we could do that. For some reason or another, that was not the path for the vast majority of us. And yet we see it become a reality for someone like you, and it fills us with pure joy. We appreciate and love seeing your hard work pay off and your dreams come true. The ecstasy of victory. Watch it again, dear readers. Oh, see how the grown man cannot control his emotions. And that is a beautiful sight. Sam, we saw it in your eyes. Everything that got you to this point was flashing in those watery circles. Again, dear readers, I'm sure this sounds cliche, but we certainly do not appreciate this every time. Just one stage ago, on stage 9, Tadej Pogačar of UAE took his first tour stage as well, but these emotions did not flood through our hearts then. But here, Sam made us remember why we waste our time with these silly 2-minute interviews. And I tell you, dear readers, just as young Sam was inspired by the footage of Kelly and Roche, and Abdu-Japarov and Museo after them, today, a young child was inspired by Sam. Today, a young child in Ireland watched that sprint and that interview and made it their dream to win a stage of the Tour de France, just like you, Sam. Congratulations, Sam. We do not need to tell you to savor the victory. But I and the dear readers will tell you, stay sharp. Do not lose your focus. This is not yet the time to rest on your laurels, for now you are back in the green jersey. The stage dream is fulfilled, and it was beautiful to see. But now you must refocus on defeating the Mighty One, a former teammate who has worn green for so long before. To wear such a jersey in Paris, would that be beyond your wildest dreams? All right, so that was the stage. Sam Bennett, greatest post-race interview ever. Pretty awesome, pretty awesome. This was one where, this would have been a Tuesday, so I'm coming back from work, long day. Sit down to watch the recording of the stage from this morning, and no. Yeah. Sit down to watch the recording of the stage this morning, and then, man, what a day. What a day. Pretty awesome at the end there. Because I really was, like I said, oh, what's for dinner? It's like, yeah, I was about to get up and go make dinner, and then I watched this TV interview, and damn, yeah, you don't have a heart if you weren't moved by that interview. And I don't know. I did my best attempt to really capture the feeling of that. I don't know if it's on YouTube. Maybe look it up. Sam Bennett, Stage 10, Tour de France. Maybe it's on YouTube. I don't know. Post-race interview. Yeah. Maybe let me know if it is. CyclingOdysseys@gmail.com. Cycling Odysseys on Twitter. CyclingOdysseys.com to read the blog post itself. And please subscribe to the show. Leave a 5-star review because I'll read them out on the show. I should actually get back to doing this, but I'm trucking through putting the ending on an episode. Just FYI. I should get back to doing this, and I will. I will for the next... Oh, wait, no. I said I wasn't doing it for the rewinds. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so this is one where I'm not supposed to be doing it. All right, anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. And with that, vive le cyclisme.